What's up? It's your boy ET. Look, if you're looking to or you got to raise the bar on your marriage, you gotta click the link and get into Married into Crazy, y'all. I'm telling you, this coaching is gonna take your relationship to another level. Now look, you already know you need to raise the bar. You know that already. So stop thinking or overthinking. Click that link, and Marriage into Crazy is gonna take you and your spouse to marital bliss. Now you know. Click the button. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Married into Crazy with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Lovey.
I'm Snooks.
And it is so nice to have my wife back by my side.
I was here last week. I should say
by
it's
herself.
so nice to have my husband by my side because the last thing that they saw, or last person that they saw, was me.
Right?
He wasn't there.
And the ratings went through the roof.
No, they
So
didn't.
what we need to do is have more of you and less of me.
No, they didn't.
Period.
That's only because I was begging the people, please don't hang up turn it off because Lovey's not here with me. So,
hey, well, whether you're back because of her or in spite of me, we're very thankful that all of you have actually come back to listen to the podcast. So for those of you that might be new, the Married into Crazy podcast is about love. It's about marriage. We've been married almost 26 years. And we've been through some stuff. And we share not just those things, but we also bring you other couples and with their experiences. And we share a lot of the nuggets from our training with the Gottman Institute, as well as extreme execution coaching, as well as our experiential things that we've experienced over the course of the last 26 years. And Snooks just says,
I say until you say something that I don't agree with. If you're doing good, I'm going to say, keep it going.
So I get her approval. So this is what you do. Basically, you come back every week to listen to me to get approval and that nod as to whether or not I'm in accordance to the ways of Snooks.
Anyway.
So if you've enjoyed the podcast to date, and if you would do us a huge favor, go over to where you're listening right now, whether that's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. If you have the ability, go ahead and give a rating, a 5-star rating, if you would, as well as a review. That would help out tremendously so we can actually raise the visibility, if you will, of the podcast and open up the conversation to more individuals across the world. Right now, we're currently in approximately 39 countries, and we love all of the people across the world that are listening, but we would love to actually increase it. There's a lot more countries that people get married in and that are having challenges because it's so common to each and every one of us. So we ask that you do that, but also go ahead over and take a mosey on the internet, the interweb of things, and take a look at marriedintocrazy.com.
A mosey?
A mosey.
Take a mosey.
Take a mosey on over.
Okay, Papa Joe.
I'm trying to get my country on.
I guess. Yeah, old man.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too. I'm starting to feel that way. But anyway, so just go over to marriedintocrazy.com and you'll see a lot of different things that we offer. One thing that we really want to call out, though, is to take a look at the Relationship Audit. Down at the very bottom of the page or towards the bottom, what you're going to find is that it's less than $10, but it's one of those things where you can actually go and do an audit of your existing relationship or your marriage and really kind of get an idea of like, where am I at? You're building your GPS. Where am I at right now? And where is that in relation to where we want to go?
Right.
It's an easy lift. It's something that, a lot of people have been giving us some great feedback about, and we want to bring it to your attention as well. So there's going to be a link in the show notes for you to go ahead and take a look at that.
Also, if you decide that you want to go a step further and get some coaching, head over to marriedintocrazy.com and do a discovery call.
Yep. Go and do a call. It's a free call. We'll do like about 15, 20 minutes or so, and then just talking to see if, there's things that we might be able to assist you with to get you from where you are right now to where you want to be. We enjoy it. It's our calling. We just brought on yet another couple, even though we said we were going to close everything down for the rest of the year. So we're still going to stay open for maybe about 2 more couples because we're reaching that capacity. We want to be able to pour in to our clients without any challenges whatsoever. So anyway, we're still going to keep it open for 2 more. But feel free to go ahead and do that and share it with a friend. That way, they might have the opportunity to get to where you think they should be or where they want to be. I think you should be somewhere else. I don't like your marriage. No, look, we're just playing around. I was going to make a joke out of it, but anyway, I was going to leave it there. Okay, but we always try and update you on some of the things that we've been doing.
Mhm.
And most recently on Veterans Day, I am a veteran. I served in the Air Force for 8 years.
Thank you for your service.
And this was the first time in my life. I've been out of the military. When did I get out? I got out in
94.
94.
Yeah.
The year Kaylin was born.
Mhm.
I got out in 1994. And this year was the very first time I actually took vacation on Veterans Day, because I've never really worked at a place where I got Veterans Day off.
Okay. You didn't even take, okay, keep it real. He didn't take the whole day. You took like half a day off.
True.
Only because we were going to see Wakanda Forever. I had already told Levy, I'm like, look, it comes out on this day and we're going to the movies and we're going to see it on the XD, the big screen. And he's like, oh, okay, I think I work that day. I'm like, well, take off. I have meetings. Anyway,
I did have
so,
meetings.
but yeah, he went to did his
I had
whatever
meetings
he had
all
to
morning
do.
long. As soon as I shut it down, I had to jump on the road and
Yep.
catch up to the rest of the family, because they left without me. They left me, y'all. They just said, you know
Oh,
what?
brother. Whatever.
We need to go see Black Panther. Bye, Dad.
Bye,
Bu-
Lovey. No. So, but about the movie, I mean, we're not going to give anything away, but I urge everyone to go and see Wakanda Forever. It was really, really good. It was really good. I loved it. I can't wait to see it again. So,
All I can say is we have to go see it again, because right now I'm on the fence. Do I like Black Panther 2 or Wakanda Forever more than I like the first one? Because I feel like it was just as good, if not better. And I'm trying to figure out, was it better? Is it just as good? Because I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it, and I think I loved it for different reasons than I loved the first one.
I for me, I'm kind of like you too, kind of on the fence of, do I like it better, the first one better than the second one? I mean, the second one better, whatever. For different reasons. Like you said, there are a lot of, I felt like a lot of principles in the second one. Not that there weren't, some principles in the first one too, but I was really moved. I think I was more moved on the second one, obviously, because
Because Chadwick wasn't
Chad
there.
was not there. But
He wasn't, but he was.
yeah.
And that's all we're going to say. I'm sure people are already talking about it, but
say more.
he wasn't, but he was. And you have to check it out.
What
But
if I wanted to talk more?
not about that. No, but I want to get into tonight's topic, because in a way, it was spawned by a couple of different things. Number one, there's a sequence that takes place in the movie that it was talking about values. There was a I don't want to give anything away, but there was this part where Shuri really had to come face to face with her values, right? And a friend of mine in my King's Accountability group brought up a great topic this past weekend. And what?
I wanted to say it, but
Who? What do you call the group, Snooks? What do you call the group?
in Cadge.
Cadge. No.
That is so affectionate, though. It's not
That's
like
so
it's
offensive. No. No.
okay.
But it's one of those things where he brought up a topic regarding values as well.
Mm-hmm.
And let me pose the question, and I want to get into the conversation. He was talking about how when we set goals, right, whether it be financial goals, physical, spiritual, any type of goals, he goes, sometimes people just sit there and say, oh, I want to do X, Y, Z. And they write these goals down, and then you even reverse engineer it. And you get to the point where it's like, okay, I want to get it here. So I need to figure out what my steps are to actually get there. And you go through this entire process. And then at some point, whether it be like New Year's resolution or whatever, you get to a point where sometimes you don't ever hit those goals, and it becomes this rigmarole, or what do you want to call a rut, where it's like, oh, I always set these goals and I never really get to them. I don't accomplish them. The question he posed was, are your goals aligned to your values? Is there congruency? He said, because our values are the things that drive our decisions on a daily basis, whether it's subconscious or conscious. And it goes, and how conscious are we in connecting our values? Do you even know what your values are? And connecting that to these goals you're making. Because instead of making these random goals, I mean, like, yeah, you might want to lose weight. You might want to pray more. You might want to make more money. But in all those things, should we be setting that goal first, or we should be sitting down saying, okay, what are my values? And should I be setting goals that are congruent with my values? Because if they're not aligned for whatever reason, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to hit those goals.
Okay.
And I want to relate that to our relationships. And do you have values that are aligned or that you talk about? Are there values associated with your marriage? Are there values, shared meaning, if you will, that we both connect with? And when we talk about, we've talked so often about vision boards, creating it as a couple, all that. Or we just and I'm just gonna be honest, we just kind of randomly, oh, I want this. I want to go here. I want to do that. I want to make this. I want to live in this kind of house and go these places. They're kind of random, but now I'm wondering, wow, and though we are hitting some of those goals, are they aligned with our values?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'll just take the vision board piece of it. A lot of times when we do vision boards, you're talking about what do I have a vision of where I want to go, or how much money I want to have, and so we create our vision boards based on destinations that we want to be, or and financial destinations also. um I don't know necessarily that it's so much tied to values as much as it is tied to feelings. Does that make sense?
Values, feelings, yeah, okay.
So, like, I you say we want to make $12 million or what have you, and that feeling of, okay, so I'll make $12 million. If you dissect the reasons behind it, I want to make 12 million. I want $12 million. Why? Because then I can do what I want to do. I can help a whole bunch of people if that's your goal. I can travel. I can, that's the reason why. I will be secure. I'll feel this way. I will feel, So sometimes we don't, when we think about our values, I'm in relationship and stuff. I don't necessarily think we're thinking value like what it means to us. I think we think value. Now I want to say value. I just think we think of feelings more than we think of
values.
Does
Yeah, no,
is
it
it
does.
making sense?
No, I
Okay,
think so.
because I'm like, am I
Because
rambling
no,
now?
because
Because
these
I'm
things
talking
make
too
you
much.
feel a certain way, right? Because what I think many times what's guided us when we've developed our couples vision board, it was like these things make us feel some kind of
Yeah, I
way.
got excited because I was like, ooh, I want to go here.
Or this is pretty. I really want to wear that.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with that because
right.
it still creates the shared meaning. We still, this is what we want to do together. I'm not like finding a picture like, ooh, I like that, and I'm just slapping it there. I'm finding a picture. I'm like, babe, what do you think?
Well,
And we'll discuss that picture or whatever it is. And then if we feel like that's something that we can both get behind, then we're going to put it on our vision board because it's our vision board. We see that.
But what's funny that I mean, what I, and correct me if I'm wrong or if you don't agree.
I'll correct you.
That thing, that feeling, where it's like, oh, I like this, whatever. I think what we do is we scratch the surface on it. Like, there's a reason why these things appeal to us. We just never dig past
why
that superficial layer, and then the why behind it. We just kind of like, oh, we go with this, and we go with the feeling, but we never question what is behind that feeling that makes me want this, or makes me want to go there, or what is it about me traveling to these places that's calling me. And I think that if we do that, then all of a sudden the desire becomes that much more, much deeper, right? And so now the sacrifice that's involved with doing these things doesn't seem like it's as big a sacrifice because now I've tied it to more than the feeling.
Mm.
It's tied to the why behind the feeling.
Yeah, I totally get, and I was just thinking about when we were in Barbados. Okay, because you know how I feel about the whole travel thing and traveling with I if I have a regret, it's that we didn't travel a lot as a family with our children when they were younger. That's a regret. But
Oh,
at the
okay.
same time, I'm like, I don't know that I could have survived that,
You're like, you left with 3, but you came back with 2. What?
Right. We don't know what happened.
I don't know.
But I feel like
It's a jet ski accident.
why is the baby on the jet ski?
No, anyway, go ahead.
But I have reasons behind what it just kind of lends to your point. So my reasons for wanting to do it or do the traveling, um, because I want my kids to have that value of going places, or have that mindset of they can go anywhere they want to go. Let's just be honest, a lot of people um in my family, I'll just talk about my family. A lot of people in my family, vacation was going to go see your auntie or going to see your grandma if they lived in a different state or a different city or whatever. And if we were lucky, we may have went to Disneyland. But none of the kids in my family had passports, and they weren't doing that kind of traveling. And it wasn't really until I got older that I was like, that's a thing. Families travel and they take their kids, and so their kids grow up with the expectation of travel. This is what we're going to do. And they have more of an appreciation for other places.
Their exposure is different.
Exposure is totally different. And I feel like exposure in just that certain categories, that helps you in life also in so many other ways.
It adds perspective. It's funny. I had never been to another country prior to joining the military. And the funny thing about that is it's not even a black or white thing. A lot of the people, the great majority of the people that I was in the military with, had never been out of the country until they joined the military.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder sometimes if it's a socioeconomic thing, not so much
It's definitely a socioeconomic thing.
because I know that there's money involved, right?
It's definitely,
but it's not a black or white thing. So I don't want people to think that. But I will say this: that there are. It's interesting to see that, like when we went to Italy, there weren't a lot of American, well, basically African Americans that we saw on our trips. No, we saw a lot of Africans.
We saw a gang of Africans
and a lot of Haitians. There were people that looked like us, but very few were from the United States. A lot of British, but not from the U.S. And I think there's a challenge with that. Now, when you go to the Caribbean, we saw a lot of us. There's a lot of people that have said, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, we're from Texas, we're from North Carolina, whatever." When it was Caribbean, because we were traveling to places that were people that looked like us. There is a draw when you go to an Afro-Caribbean area. And I don't want to just make this about travel, but it's about finding.
Well, that was just a thing that came.
It's about creating a shared meaning, right? And so it's almost like a culture covenant, if you will. I read an article on one of the blogs from Gottman. What was that? It was Gottman.com.
I'm on
but it's
the
their
Gottman
blog.
Institute.
It's the Gottman Institute, but they have a blog. And I'll occasionally go on and read different articles going, all the way back, 10, 15 years, what have you. And there was one that was actually specifically talking about the idea of developing a culture covenant. And everything that it talked to really spoke to values. It talked about sitting down and having a discussion with your spouse about what's important to you. And is it important to me as well? And then you find where that cross-pollination is. And I forget those circles when you overlap them. I always forget the name of them. When you got these circles and you overlap, and that overlap is that commonality.
I know what you're talking about.
There's a specific name for it, and I always forget it. But the Rand, I don't remember. Anyway, but when you find that, that's what your values are, and it's based on those values that are common to the two of you. that you build the principles of your marriage and what you're going to do. So when you're setting goals, to actually do that. And it can be a variety of things. It could be, you sit down, you say something like, well, vulnerability is crucial for us.
Mhm.
And in being vulnerable, we need to make sure that it's okay to express our full range of emotions without being scared
Mhm.
of how the other person's going to respond. So vulnerability, that's one of our values. We want to do that. It might be
Honesty.
honesty, always telling the truth. So once you are able to start, it might be humor. We want to be able to laugh and joke and
Yeah.
laugh with each other, at each other, for each other.
Don't ever laugh at me.
I do.
Well, not in my face.
Not when you're looking. And about the other thing. So for us, I know for a fact that the principles upon which the Married into Crazy is built upon, crazy. Those are values that we hold dear.
Mhm.
We talk about being compassionate, real, accountable, zealous, and yielding. Those are things that are extremely important to us, and that's what we teach upon. That's
Mhm.
how we coach. We layer that in to what the challenges may be, and it's been working well. Our clients speak to it, but we're not forcing our values on anyone else.
Mm-mm. And just kind of to your point, it's so funny too, just to even think about it, because one thing that, when we tell our story, and I'm talking to someone about the talk that we had, the 3-hour talk, and I'm like, yeah, after that, 3 hours, I was just like, okay, I know he's the guy. And they always come back to like, wow, really? Like, you guys talked for 3 hours and you just knew. And I was like, yeah. And I always say, because we shared the same values. But what we didn't do early on in our marriage was sit down and talk about how we want to incorporate, even though we have the same values,
Right.
it's about incorporating those values in our marriages. I think we just thought, well, I feel this way, you feel that way. And so we share the same thing, but we never really talk about how we're going to mesh them together. Because chocolate is there's dark chocolate, there's milk chocolate, there's there's
I
different
like me some dark chocolate.
that's the special kind. But there's different chocolates, and you can blend them together, you can have them different. It's still chocolate, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I'm
No,
saying?
absolutely. It's like you're saying, look, oh, I like San Francisco. Oh, I love San Francisco too. Oh, we should go to San Francisco often. You know what? I agree. We need to go to San Francisco. But how many different ways are there to get from our home to San Francisco?
And how many
There's
different parts of San Francisco are there?
right. And so we agreed on the destination that this
Mhm.
is where we want to go. And we agreed on that, but we never talked about how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Or do we go this way one time and then another way another time because it's more scenic, or
Mhm.
this way because it's more direct, or we want to avoid all the traffic and go this other route, or there's a special restaurant if we go this other route? We didn't discuss that. And that's what's missing. And quite honestly, when it comes down to actually developing your values, it's not enough, like Snooks is saying, to just talk about, oh, we both agree we like this.
Right.
But what does that really mean to us? How do we get there? How does that value show up in your life, your perception? How do you live that out? How would you live out honesty? Oh, when I see something, I'm going to call it out. I don't care if it hurts your feelings or not. The truth is the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. Well, that's honesty,
Well, yeah, that's brutal also.
but we're saying brutal, right? But it is honesty. But it's one of those things where it's like, I
Uh,
don't like your brand of honesty.
well, I mean, or your approach to honesty.
Can we find a softer edge? Right? Can we agree on
Can we think
how we're going to be honest and respectful?
and not lose the value? I mean, no one is trying to tell you to um not keep it real. We talked about that before, when keeping it real. Like, you can keep it real and you can keep it kind and you can be nice about it too,
Very true.
So
Very true. So these are the things, so when you're building this covenant, it's not set in stone either.
because go ahead.
No, it's a living, breathing, I don't call it a document, but it's a living, breathing covenant.
It is a document, no.
You signed it in blood. No, but it is. It's a covenant, right? So it's living, it's breathing, it's going to change, it's going to evolve over time.
That's like I feel like and it can be fluid, like you said. It's going to change because you're going to be kind of like you. We're not the same people that we were when we got married 26 years ago, almost 26 years ago. We're the same, but we're not the same. Our values have evolved.
Hmm.
I feel like. I know mine have. You're kind of,
Yeah, I'm hard headed.
whatever.
No, but there's different ways, like identify those things. And I'm going to challenge everyone to really just sit down and have that conversation. It's like, and it's going to sound kind of weird at first. Like, what are your values? But go beyond just the question. Ask, well, what is that? How does that show up? What does that really mean? If you say, well, you know what? Honesty is very important. Intimacy is very important. Well, okay, what does intimacy really look like? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, intimacy is, the get down. No, it's, but no, I'm just joking around. But what is it really? What does intimacy look like?
Yeah.
Is it just holding hands? Is it, how do you feel when we're just close to each other and, I got a leg, or my leg's touching your leg, or we're walking in a mall and holding hands. That's a form of it. I mean,
what does it mean to you? I mean, and I feel like maybe sometimes some people don't really know what their values are because they never really sat and thought about, what does this mean to me? How was it? Is it important, and why? Why is it important?
And what?
So,
and that leads to a deeper discussion, because you might find out that, well, this means so much to me in this manner because my dad never did this for my mom. And I always wondered, why won't you do that? I saw it in the movies. I know it can happen. My friend's parents did that. Why don't you do that for my dad? Or, man, it would be great if, whatever it may be. And there's some deep rooted things that we never scratch the surface on, unfortunately, until problems arise.
well, yeah.
Then it's something we spend more time talking about the trauma behind why we don't do things or why we do things, as opposed to the values that we hold that really are at the root of it as well.
So tell me, give me one of your values.
Sex. No. Not a value. No, one of my values is humor. One of my values is that we need to be able to, you always tell me I'm goofy, I'm silly.
Lovey is so goofy and silly, which is it's funny because this is one of those things where you talk about evolution. You've evolved, because before he was not. I was like, can you relax a little bit? When we first got married, he's very straight laced, and I was like, okay, military man, he never slouched. He sit up straight, and he's looking around the room, and I'm like, oh brother, can you, and here I am, I'm like the loud laugher, and my whole family, we're like that, but he wasn't like that before. Now he is so silly. I'm like, let me stop.
But what's funny is I feel like it's always been there. I just never felt like I had permission to be myself, to let it out, because if I did, then certain people would look at me a certain way, or there was judgment involved. And you allow me to be a version of myself that's always been there, but I didn't feel safe to let out. You know what I mean? And
I
so,
totally know what you
and
mean.
now I laugh, I joke to the point where I don't care.
And I'm like, babe, be quiet, stop.
And it's corny as all get up. I'll
It
tell
is
dad
very
jokes.
corny.
I will
It's very
tell.
corny. Yes.
But it's extremely funny. So like, there's times where you and I we'll just laugh, just the two of us, where we're just what.
I was just thinking about that. Like, we'll laugh, and the girls are looking at us like it must be your parent humor, because they don't find it funny at all. We're dying laughing. They're just like, "What? That's stupid. That's not funny."
Over time, we've developed the ability to find humor in most everything, even in tragedy. When things are going on, we're able to laugh at nuances of whatever the situation may be. And be like, wow, or we'll make like a little joke. It's like just a little bit of humor to take the sting off of whatever's going on. But that's one of my values. So let me ask you, what's one of your values?
Honesty.
You already said honesty earlier.
I didn't say honesty, did I?
You did. You said honesty. It can't
Okay,
be
so
brutal honesty.
no,
I use that as an example.
Anyway. Okay, so anyway, a value that I have that we are, when we talk, when we get upset, when we fuss or whatever, we don't cuss at each other. We're not yellers, and we don't be hollering at each other and acting crazy or whatever. We we keep it pretty
Above belt, above board, above.
yeah, I
We
I,
don't
I
go
I
over
don't know.
belt.
Yeah, I just like I don't know what kind of word to use for it, but that was something from the very beginning that I I said there were five things that I was like, okay, no, 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 none of that. And Levy was like, okay, like I don't know. I feel like he looked at me kind of weird, like why would I do that anyway? But I always felt like there was a need for me to say,
Which is an
so.
easy lift for me because my parents have been divorced since God rest both of their souls. Um, they were divorced since I was 2, and there was some animosity. I mean, I grew up amongst some serious animosity between them, but at no point did they ever. I never heard my mom or my dad call the other one out their name. I never heard my dad refer to my mom or any of his ex-wives as that B.
Mhm.
And I never heard my mom. No, she might have said, that ninja, but she never said, that, I don't know, just that
Right,
MF
right,
or
right, right,
whatever.
right,
She never
right,
went
right,
off like
right,
that.
right.
And so it wasn't a hard lift for me to be like, well, why would I do that? Because that's
Mhm.
just not how I was raised. I didn't grow up around that. No, I won't say I didn't grow up around. I did grow up around that. It just wasn't in my house.
Got you. Mhm.
Aunts, uncles, oh yeah, there was a whole lot of look. There were jail terms that were served
That was like funny.
as a result of it.
Mhm.
But I didn't grow up like that, so that was easy. But I truly believe that when you're getting to these values and you're having these discussions, it's worth really sitting down. And I just can't emphasize it enough to really sit down and say, get to the why behind
Mhm.
the feeling. Get to like, well, why is that important to you, and how does that show up
Mm.
in your life?
Yeah, because I think that part, especially the how does it show up piece, is important because if I'm thinking one thing, it's kind of like we talked about before about the um not language, sign language, but we're speaking different languages. You're swearing. I'm like you're like I am doing that. I am doing that, but the interpretation to me is totally different. So you need
Right.
to figure out how you want it to show up in your relationship. What does the value look like for blah or whatever? And be very concise with your answers because you can't expect your partner, your spouse to read your mind,
Hmm.
you know.
And it's dope because this whole thing, a lot of it came from that brother that's in my men's accountability, the King's accountability group, Lucas Acida. I know you listen, and I just want you to know, brother, I appreciate that you pose this question to all the men because it really has had me thinking about, how does it show up in our lives and the goals that we set going forward. Because here we are in November, it's going to come time for us to actually do another vision board at the beginning of the year about how do we want to show up this next year. But rather than just, oh, this looks pretty. Oh, I want to go here. Oh, I want to go there. I'm going to give some serious thought to, how does this align with the values that we say that we have as a couple, and really get to the why behind it. So that way, as we're in the process of sacrificing or making decisions in order to achieve these things, that is tied directly to values that are going to help drive and keep me honest when it comes time to really get after it.
Yeah, I think that's important. It never hurts because again, misinterpretations have killed relationships,
Oh, absolutely.
and I like that though. Just sitting down thinking about the vision board, how instead of just destinations, let's talk about or place values on the board. These are the values that we want to show up
Mm,
in our relationship for 2023.
2023,
2023. So
the year of ARP.
ARP.
AARP.
AARP. Yes, the year of AARP. Yes,
That might
yes,
end up,
sir.
that's going to be a podcast title next year.
Hey,
The
I'm
year
ready
of
for it.
AARP.
The year. That's funny.
So, hey, look, we hope you got some enjoyment out of this. At the very minimum, we hope that it sparked some thought, right? It created something for you to give some thought to. Let it marinate a little bit. Hopefully, it's got your mind racing like, oh, you know what? What do we do? maybe we should have this conversation. If you can take a snippet of this and it adds value to your relationship, we've done our job. We do thoroughly enjoy these conversations, these topics that come, and we also love bringing you couples, and we can't wait to bring you the next couple that in a couple of weeks you're going to be hearing from.
So I just kind of, always want to just bring it back to make sure that whatever it is that we say that we want, make sure that we're putting action behind it. We a lot of times I think when you talk about being intentional, you got to be intentional. You got to be intentional. So many people focus on the word intentional, so they think, oh yeah, I really have to mean it. But in order to really mean it, this is just in my own, feelings about it. In order to really mean it, that means you need to be doing it. There should always be action with intentionality.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of people, I'm being intentional because I'm really focusing on, okay, so what action steps have you? Oh, what? I mean, so
Well, and that
put some action
intentionality,
in it.
that the action, the intentionality you're talking about, there was a phrase in the article that, and I'm just going to read it verbatim, and it says, it talks about it empowers us. And I'm talking about the intentionality, right? If you get into the words and the underlying dynamics of what you say your values are, it empowers us to direct our marriage rather than falling back on habits and learned behaviors.
Mm.
Because when we get into those habits and learned behaviors, some of them are good, some of them aren't so good.
Mm-hmm.
But if we have intentionality, it's going to empower us to truly direct our marriage rather than reacting to the situation. And then we figure out, okay, then it's a knee-jerk reaction to my subconscious that it's operating off of some standard operating procedure that I was given when I was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Versus me being very intentional about making sure that my relationship and the things that my wife and I are doing are aligned to the values that we said. Now, is this easy? No, it requires a lot of thought. But you know what? The more let me put this, the more intentional that you are consistently, the more second nature it becomes. You don't have to put as many brain cells toward being intentional because then it becomes a part of your DNA. And it's natural. And now the more often you do it together,
Mm-hmm.
even when you falter or you start to drift, your spouse will be the one to kind of nudge you back on path. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, remember we said our goals or our values are this? Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. My bad. I don't know where that came from. It came from something that was ingrained in you a long time ago, but we need to sit there and be accountable to each other in this process.
Yeah, just be mindful of how you
Nudge.
nudge. Exactly. Don't shove, don't push, but nudge. Don't wedge in there and
one person's shove is another person's
okay,
nudge.
so you need to be on my nudge level, not me on yours.
Okay. All right. That might be the next episode. We have to talk about that. Find that equilibrium. Well, look, y'all, we enjoyed the conversation. We hope you did too. Be sure to go ahead and visit marriedintocrazy.com. Look at all the different things that are being offered by us. There's something for everyone. There's free content like this particular venue, this apparatus, whatever you want to call it. This content.
Apparatus.
This is free. But there's something as low as $9, and there's more things that suits your specific needs, depending upon where you're at in your relationship. We hope to serve you in a variety of different ways if you allow us. It's our calling, it's our love, it's our passion, and we hope that we can actually someday partner with you to ensure that you're getting where you want to go in your relationship.
Yes, sir.
So until the next time,
be blessed.
bye.
Bye-bye.